first novel.
Yes, welcome back to Writing on Caffeine. I am Jonathan Franzone, and this is my daughter.
I'm Ragan, also Franzone.
So you just heard a snippet of our new theme song. What do you think, Ragan?
I love it. It's my new favorite thing.
Yes, it's great. So that will be our new theme song going forward. Tonight we are meeting at my house again, and I am drinking Earl Grey tea, hot.
Me too.
You too?
Yeah, just with a lot more sugar and some cream in it.
I have no sugar, no cream. So.
Ooh, why?
Because today is the first day of Lent.
Oh.
And so I am giving up sugar in my drinks. So I can only drink water, black tea, and black coffee.
Ew.
So I've done that. I did that last year, and I think the year before for Lent. And it's enough of a nuisance that it really kind of is on my mind throughout the day because I can't just go grab a soda or sweet tea or something. And so it helps with the Lenten devotion. So
Yeah.
Lost in a scene that we swore was sweet. Monsters and heroes.
So we are in the editing phase,
Yes, we are.
and we are recording this at the beginning of March, which means we should have had 1 month to edit.
Yes.
I did not.
Technically, I didn't either.
Right. You did the first phase of our editing.
Yes.
So February was all about the read through
Mm-hmm.
and then writing a reverse outline, which you have done.
Yes, I did.
I've read probably 5 chapters of mine, so I didn't read through all of it yet. That's my bad.
That's okay.
So, what was it like reading through your first draft without making changes?
It was humbling.
Was it?
Yeah. But it gave me a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I see what I was doing here.
Yeah.
The problem is that there's no like setup because I pantsed the entire thing. So I got to the end and I got to this like epic climax for my book. And
Right.
there's absolutely no setup in the entire beginning part of the novel.
Right.
So now I get to kind of backtrack.
You have to reverse engineer the ending.
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so the bit that I have read, it's funny. I read some of it and I was like, this is what was I thinking? Why did I put this in here? And then other scenes I was like, this is really good. Like this will really work. I'm glad I wrote this.
There have been multiple times that I'm reading through my draft. And apparently, because I did not remember doing this, any time that I don't know what I'm going to name a character, I just start calling them Kevin. So there's like 37 different Kevins in my book.
Kevin.
And I'm like, I put in parentheses, I'm like, find a name for this dude right now. He's Kevin. And so
Right.
I'm like writing and then I'm like, Kevin did this. Kevin said that. And I'm like, oh no, there's so many Kevins in my book.
That's funny. So you're going to do the thing where you accidentally misspell it one time and then you do the search and replace and you miss one.
Right.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing with names in the beginning, only I would just in all caps put find a name or something. So
Mm-hmm.
so it was real obvious.
Yeah. There are a couple times I've done that in the book in parentheses, something along the lines of universe appropriate exclamation or
Yeah.
somebody does something interesting here.
Yeah.
Or
I had several of those.
figure out how they get out of this mess later. Fix it in post.
Was there anything in the read through that's really just surprised you?
Well, I'll tell you what surprised me is I wrote a book,
Yes.
even though, it still needs a lot of work, but I did it.
Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment.
So I'm excited about that.
Not many people, well, a lot more people now can say it, but a lot of people cannot say they've written a book. The reverse outline process, explain what a reverse outline is, because I think you're the one that found this in something you read or...
Yes. Reverse outline is when you read through your novel and outline what's actually there.
Okay.
So I guess for most people, they will write an outline and then write a book. But I feel like even for people who are super plotters, you deviate and you kind of go off of the outline.
That's fair.
So the reverse outline shows what you actually have.
Right.
In mine, there's a lot of comments like, this is just not good. Or this scene happens in chapter 34 when it should happen in scene 4.
Right.
Why is this happening so late in the book? Why is all the character development happening in the last 10 chapters?
Right. Yeah.
So
that will be good for actually your actual editing process. You've done that and you got those notes in your reverse outline that you can begin to think how to fix it.
right.
Yeah, that's really good. What did you discover about your characters as you analyzed their arcs, or have you analyzed their arcs, or just noticing things about your characters?
I've kind of started analyzing their arcs because I know that I have a lot of character development I want them to go through. But in this first write through, it was kind of a like, this is how they are. And then at the end, they're just different.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any process to get them through. So there wasn't actually an arc.
Right.
It was just kind of a straight shot
Yeah.
to character development, which is not good.
No.
But it gives me a start and an end.
Right. Yeah.
My main character has a lot to go through, and I also realized that when I first started writing the novel, she was a completely different person
Yeah.
than how I actually want her to be.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And I feel like even reading a lot influences how you write your characters. Characters you like, you tend to like pull bits and pieces of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So are there any like things you've read that you really found yourself pulling into your characters? Anything by Sarah J. Maas?
Yeah. Well, that was the problem because I'm like, this cannot be that character. And there's no way that she's going to compare to that character, even though I love her so much. I need to not pull from her.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's going to fall flat. And I had plans and ideas for what this character was going to be like, and most of that stuck to in the novel. Like I stuck with her generic backstory and what growth she's going through.
Yeah.
Her attitude, however, needs to be changed and fixed because she cannot be, I'm trying to think of the words. When I originally wrote her as a very self-assured, snarky character, and she cannot be like that.
No.
Because she's literally been in prison for 10 years and she's dying.
Yeah.
Like you can't, no, it's not going to work that way.
Yeah. You wouldn't be real snarky if you'd been in prison for 10 years.
Right. And that's kind of a realization I came to is she's not going to be like that. She's sad and defeated and not self-assured at all.
Right.
So
I suppose you could write that into her character, but you'd have to work really hard to sell.
Well, she'd have to have a further back reason to be that way.
Right. Yeah.
But she doesn't. Because she was so little when she was imprisoned. She was just a kid. You can't. No, it just wouldn't work.
I feel like my main character is probably pretty flat. I hadn't read it all through new eyes yet, but like his main motivations are, I really want to use magic. And then the end, ooh, I can use magic. And, you know, he doesn't really know what happened to his dad other than he was killed in the last Great War. And then he finds out, oh, the bad guy killed my dad.
Right.
It's super on the nose, but it's also middle grade. So
right. I know my male main character is super flat.
Is he?
So flat. He has no growth right now. And that's something I really need to work on, which we need to talk about later because I need help because I don't know what his arc needs to be, but it needs to be something because he can't just be a happy-go-lucky dude for the entire book.
Whenever I visualize your characters, I always see that character as PETA.
That's funny. I love PETA, but he's not PETA.
Yeah. Did any unexpected themes emerge as you went through your story?
There's going to be a lot of themes around friendship
Right.
and trust.
Right.
That's something that I originally wanted. And it's kind of still there. It's not as prominent as I want it to be.
Right. So your characters are kind of forced to be together,
Right.
and they are conflicting as far as their like their personalities are opposites, and so it's kind of the enemies to lovers, but enemies to friends,
Right. Exactly.
frenemies.
Frenemies. Like we're stuck and we have to do this thing. I don't want to really be friends with you.
Right.
But she doesn't trust anybody because she's been abused for her entire life. So she's kind of learning
Yeah.
to trust other people.
Yeah. So, what was your system for organizing all of this? Read through your notes. Did you keep notes? I think you did, but
I did. I first started by printing out my entire manuscript.
the whole thing, you printed it.
The entire thing, printed it, hole punched it, and stuck it in a binder.
Nice.
Then I started reading through. My system was I took just a blue pen just because it stands out a little bit better and a highlighter. One highlighter, one pen.
Okay.
And I started just reading through and I would make notes in the margins. There was a lot of times where I would like cross out entire lines of things and just write no or fix or stop, please. There were a couple times though where I would take that highlighter and I would highlight something and be like, this is good.
Oh, good.
We can use this. So after I finished a scene at a time, I would write in my little journal that I have, like scene 1, and I would write the things that I liked and the things I didn't like and a recap of the scene and what happened.
Oh, that's a really great idea.
So I did that for all 40 some odd scenes that I have.
I should do that.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
And actually do it.
Yeah, you should actually do it. It's very helpful.
Very cool.
And then after that, I have this big, like children's art notepad.
Yeah.
Very large. And I kind of just pulled it open and I wrote the 3 main story arcs.
Okay.
And I wrote the beginning at the top and the end at the bottom. And I'm still working on filling in the middle parts. How we're going to get there, how we're going to connect.
Oh,
from the
I was going to
beginning to
ask
the
what's
end.
in the middle.
Yeah, nothing right now.
So it's kind of a mind map for how your story works.
Right. How are we going to get from here to there?
Yeah.
And then I did a lot of scene blocking with Post-it notes. As I was reading through, so I took the notes that I made in my journal and then I input them into my reverse outline.
Right.
And whenever I came up with a question, like, why does this character know this information? I write on a sticky note, stick it on the wall.
Wow.
Why does this character behave this way? Stick it on the wall. Who is this guy? And why did I write him? Because I don't even know who he is. I don't remember this. This is a fever dream.
Right. So does your wall look like the conspiracy theory meme with the guy and the strings and the papers all over the wall?
Kinda. Well, not too mad because my cat would rip them all off the wall, but.
What's your cat's name?
Calcifer.
Oh, that's cute. Where's that come from?
Howl's Moving Castle. The little fire demon. He's a cutie pie.
And he is a little fireball.
He is. He's a crackhead for sure.
He's
but we love him.
Orange cat.
Mm-hmm.
So that matches with the fire.
Yes.
And sometimes he just attacks your face.
A lot. He bit my nose the other night. It hurt really bad.
Oh, goodness. So looking ahead to March, which I guess is where the real editing should start.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest changes you anticipate making to your characters? I think we already talked about that a little bit, but.
Yeah. I want to make them consistent for one thing.
Yeah. So consistency.
And not so corny.
Corny?
Yes, I feel like for the first write through, there was a lot of very stereotypical, corny main character
Right.
phrases. Things like, we can get through this together, over and over and over again, which really was just kind of a stand in for something emotional needs to happen here.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know what it is right now.
Yeah, that's funny.
You're not alone. I know. Like, we get it. You can't say that in every scene.
No.
But
You probably should never say that.
never, ever, ever. Which is why that's the majority of things that are crossed out and say, no.
No. So one of the things I found, it was really funny. It's not about characters, but apparently in the first like 3 chapters, I decided it would be really cool to have my own custom slang. It was not good. It is so stupid.
He tried to Brandon Sanderson and he couldn't.
No, I couldn't at all. The first 2 that I read in place, I was like, I just put it in the margin. I was like, should I do this? Maybe that's not a good idea because this sounds really dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hit the 3rd one. I was like, yeah, I need to strip all of this out.
Bad.
It's bad.
Something that I realized when writing fantasy fiction is you're making stuff up.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm making stuff up and I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
But then I think to myself, you know what? If I was the person writing another fantasy novel that I've read before and I like decided to write this down, I would think to myself, this is dumb.
Really dumb.
But it's fantasy, so people are just okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of dumb things from famous authors, Brandon Sanderson.
I know.
I read through, I think I read them all. It's the Alcatraz versus the Evil Library.
I thought we were going to talk about the Stormlight Archive.
No, I can't go there yet. Too soon.
Too fresh.
Too fresh. But the Alcatraz series, which you and I have talked about before, I think it was just like him brain dumping all the crazy ideas he has into a series. But there's this one scene I remember that matches that description of, yeah, that was dumb. So this team of people are going to assault this castle. They have to infiltrate the castle. I can't even remember why. But for some odd reason, and they don't even explain it, he doesn't explain it, they just start throwing out Shakespearean quotes throughout the entire attack scene.
What?
It's like a different book, and they just start speaking these Shakespeare lines while they're assaulting this castle. I'm like, why? Why are they speaking like this?
So Alcatraz series is just Brandon Sanderson's LSD trip.
I think so.
Are you okay, dude?
Yeah.
Which is so sad because he could have put a little bit of effort in and written the rest of The Arithmetist.
Really? Absolutely. That's a really good book.
I know.
It needs a conclusion.
I know. I want to know what happens.
Yes, absolutely. So, refining prose and style, what aspects of your writing style are you thinking that you might focus on?
That's a great question. I'm just trying to make sure everything's cohesive at this point.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be multiple full write-throughs, full rewrites.
Right, yeah.
I know, like, when we kind of planned it out, it's kind of like you're breaking it down into chunks and you're just rewriting bits at a time. But I feel like it's going to be like a whole rewrite for this March situation.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have to go back. There's going to be 3 or 4 drafts. I'm sure of it.
I feel like I won't need as many drafts because I'm a super plotter. And from what I've read, even in the beginning, which is my really bad section, like there's some really good stuff in there. And it's still in line with the plot that I had in mind. So,
well, I feel like I've done this before when I've written short stories and things like that, is you brain dump the first draft.
Right.
And then you kind of figure out what's going on, and then you rewrite it and you have more knowledge about what's happening around what you're writing.
Yeah.
So you can write it more cohesively. And I feel like every time it's going to be easier. And a lot of it is probably going to be just copy and pasting it over onto the next draft. But I want to write it,
Yeah.
type it out,
Really?
so I know what's happening.
Interesting.
And I think that will make it better.
You know, you can do revisions in Scrivener.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it'll store a history of revisions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm writing in Google Docs.
That's
From
something.
Scrivener into Google Docs because for this first rewrite,
Right.
I can send it to you and you could add comments on it.
That's true.
And then I can transplant it back into Scrivener.
That's true. I mean, we could also set up a file share for the Scrivener project.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
I'm not computery.
So I used to follow these two guys. Sean Platt was one of them. And I can't remember the other guy's name, but they wrote as a pair, like they would both work on the same book together, and one of them would do a lot of the outlining, and the other one was good at something else. I don't know, but that's how they did it. They used Scrivener, and they it was just shared.
Oh,
And so I think they even had some little technique to where they could avoid working on the same thing at the same time.
yeah.
For conflicts, because you can work on different files in the same project and it's fine. But yeah, they used to do that.
Interesting. We'll have to set it up.
Yeah, maybe. Or Google Docs.
Whatever. Just something so that I can send it to you easily and you can tell me how bad it is.
Right, yeah. So motivation, did you feel any overwhelm feelings when you started into this process?
Yes. I'm not going to lie. Before I started actually reading through my book, I just kind of stared at it for a long time.
Really?
And I'm not talking like it sat on my counter and I walked by and I kept looking at it and thinking about it. I'm talking, I sat at the kitchen table and I stared at it for like a full 10 minutes. Like, do I really want to do this? Or should I just say this was good enough? But I don't want to give up on it. I want it to be good. And I know it's not going to be the best.
Right.
Obviously, the first book that I ever write is not going to be good,
Right.
but I want it to be readable.
Yeah.
So I can't give up.
I don't think that's too much to ask. The guy, Andy Weir, I think that's how you say his name. I don't know. He wrote The Martian. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, The Martian was his first book. And it was a New York Times bestseller. And they made it into a movie.
Well, Harry Potter is J.K. Rowling's first book.
Yeah. It did take a while to take off.
This is true.
It's a slow burn.
Okay. Brandon Sanderson's first book, Elantris, is totally brain screwy.
Yeah.
When you read it, you're like, what is happening right now?
I love it, though.
It's just world building.
Yeah. And if you know Brandon Sanderson's story, like he couldn't get that book published
For a really long
for a
time.
long time. They kept telling him, try something else. And he wouldn't. He would just go back to that book.
Mm-hmm.
Until he finally worked on something else.
I think he wrote Mistborn, right?
I think, yeah, it was Mistborn next.
And then he
Which
went
did
back.
really well. And then he went back and got him to publish Elantris.
Or was it The Way of Kings that came next? I feel like it can't have been The Way of Kings. Nobody could just pick up The Way of Kings randomly and be like,
Yeah, no, I think he had to be an established author first. So I think it was Mistborn so that they could tell, oh yeah, this guy's going to sell books.
Right.
So when he came to them with the like 12 to 1500 page book, they would actually publish it.
They're like, everybody loves this dude. Let's just see what happens.
Right.
And then the Stormlight Archive took off. And they're like, I guess we'll publish Elantris.
Yeah, because generally publishers don't want to publish books that are too long or too short.
Mm-hmm.
There's a happy spot they want to be in,
Right.
for publishing, just for sales, because people get intimidated with a 1200 page book.
Right.
They're like, I'm not going to buy that. I won't read it.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
There's another guy, Nielsen, I think is his last name. He writes huge books like that too.
Yeah.
But they're boring. Well, the one that I read was boring.
I read that book a couple years ago that was called I don't even remember. It was white with orange on the cover.
Green Eggs and Ham?
I said orange on the cover. not
Warbreaker?
green on. No, it was not Sanderson. And it was an epic fantasy that I read that I really liked, except I could not tell you what it was about now. The Shadows of What Was Lost by James Islington.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me about that.
I have all 3 of the books.
Oh, yeah.
I read the first one. Couldn't tell you what it was about.
I have the first book. I haven't read it, though.
I think I'm going to have to read it again. I'm actually kind of want to go back and read all the Witcher books again. That's like kind of on my radar right now.
Yeah.
I'm reading a lot of things.
We'll get to that in a minute. Final takeaways from February. If you could sum up your biggest lesson from February's prep work, what would it be?
Don't stop writing.
Don't stop believing.
Yeah, seriously, because there's several times where I've been like, this is dumb. I don't like it. I don't want to keep doing this. But then I kept doing it. And now here I am with sort of kind of a book.
Yeah,
It's going to get there.
we'll get there.
Mhm.
So, what are you most excited or nervous about as you go into March's editing phase?
I am nervous because I have to rewrite the entire first 10 chapters of my book.
Yeah,
They're
sucks.
in a completely different alternate timeline from the rest of the book.
You should save it. You could like do a novelette version of that, and
Right, like an alternate beginning.
right,
Yikes. It is not cohesive.
right, yeah,
While I was writing my book, the way I started it, she's completely different, and there's a completely different background and a history for her than what I originally had planned and thought.
right.
So the beginning of the book has to start different. That's so hard too, because you open a blank document and you have to start the beginning of your book all over again.
Yikes.
I'm like, I don't even know what I want to say. Can we just jump into the middle part? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't think there's any parts that I have to completely start from blank.
That's nice.
Yeah, I have a couple of beginnings though that I have to sort out.
There's this one scene that I have about 4 different variations of.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those.
I'm like, I don't know. We're just going to pick and choose what we like best from all of these and just kind of mash them all together.
Right.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Someday we'll publish.
So before we wrap up, let's talk briefly about what books you are currently reading or have finished since our last time together.
That's a great question.
I'll go first while you're looking it up because mine will be really short.
Okay.
I have made virtually no progress on reading.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of other things going on in my life right now. So reading is very minimal. So I'm still reading. I was reading this last time, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And I'm still reading Revision and Self-Editing for Publication by James Scott Bell and The Lord's Service by Jeffrey Myers.
Okay.
And I still have the back burners of The Hobbit and The Brothers K.
Yeah. I am also still working on The Hobbit. I am still reading through Revision and Self-Editing for Publication. I am also, I don't know if we talked about this last time. I'm still reading that Twilight parody novel.
Yeah, you did bring it up last time.
I'm still working through that. I'm struggle bussing through it. I'm laughing at it,
Right.
but it's still struggle bussing. Sometimes it just gets so dumb. I'm like, I need to take a break, man. I think a 12-year-old wrote it as fan fiction or something. It's out there.
That's funny. They probably just one-shotted it too. No edits.
Yeah. I'm like, how did this get picked up? And I'll tell you what, I looked up this author because I was talking to someone and they said, that author sounds really familiar. Have they written anything else that I would know? And I was like, that's a really great question. I don't know. So I looked her up and all her other books are trashy,
Oh, really?
like really inappropriate romance novels.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, oh, she attempted fantasy.
Right.
That's what happened here.
That's what happened.
And it ended up a Twilight parody novel. Maybe it was Twilight fan fiction, honestly.
It may have been, yeah.
I mean, that's what 50 Shades of Grey is.
Gross.
I've never read 50 Shades of Grey.
So is that all you read?
Yeah, actually. I mean, I'm still reading like the Throne of Glass reread, and
For the 50th time.
yeah, I'm just still plugging away through my little annotation read.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Cool.
See before coffee gets cold.
Well, thank you for joining us in this episode of Writing on Caffeine. We hope you'll join us in 2 to 4 weeks. Please subscribe wherever you find podcasts. If you are so inclined, please leave us a review. 5-star reviews are preferable. And also be sure to visit the website, writingoncaffeine.com, where you can view the show notes and subscribe to our email list so that you never miss an episode.
Bye.